Well, hello. My name is Desiree Skylar. Thanks for coming back to my channel, or if you're new here, welcome. This is gonna be a little bit of a different video, so if you are new here or if you've been following my relationship for a while, it is no longer, and I'm kind of gonna be talking about it right here. And it's been about a month, almost 2 months, I would say a month and 3 weeks since I got broken up with. Let me check that. Hold on, fact check real quick. Yeah, basically like a month. Wait. Yeah, sorry. But so basically it's been like a month and a half since I got broken up with. Blindsided, you might say. I never thought I would be making this video, but here I am, processing the end of a 5-year relationship that I thought was leading to forever. But we'll get to that. It's weird because I feel differently every day. It's like it comes in waves, you know, like grief. It's like one day I'll hate him, one day I'll feel compassion for him, one day I may not think about him at all, but those days are very few and far between. They're getting to be more pronounced, thank God. But yeah, it is quite a shock to the body and the mind, just getting used to not having that person in your life, or talking to them, or trying not to talk about them. It's a bit of a mind fuck. Pardon my French. So I'm basically going to be starting this by saying I'm going to be sharing my truth, and there's some people who think, you know, breakups should be private, relationships should be private, but this was a private and public relationship, you know what I mean? And my ex has made it very clear that we don't owe each other anything, not an explanation, not closure, nothing financial. So I'm gonna be telling my truth, and I really don't care who that offends or upsets, because it's my truth and it's what I'm going through. My ex is free to share whatever he wants to share, but it would be kind of weird because he's not sharing that with me. So I'm just gonna say what I need to say, and unfortunately I am not a robot. I did love this person a month and a half ago, and he's clearly struggling, so I really don't want to dogpile on. So I'm going to be not as vague as he was when he broke up with me, but I'm gonna be vague-ish, okay? So yeah, basically for 5 years I was in a long-distance relationship with someone I truly loved, and we had plans. I was even in the middle of a visa process to, well, still am, to move in with him. But then one day he just wakes up and decides it's not working. What's not working? Question for you and I both. But I have been able to reflect on this relationship since we've been broken up in a way that maybe I never would have if we didn't break up in this way, or at all. I realized that he has some serious avoidant tendencies that have affected his ability to deal with conflict. I won't get into too much of that right now, but just know, okay? If you've ever been broken up by a fearful avoidant, you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. Same day or night before, it's I love you, everything's normal, and then all of a sudden it's just coldness. Never speaking to that person again. So I'm just gonna start with a little blurb about our relationship. the beginning of the end. We met in summer 2019. Sparks flew. We had been talking to each other for a few months online and then finally decided to meet up. And don't worry, I didn't go alone. Never go alone to meet a guy for the first time. I was with my best friend, like on a trip, and he had come to meet me at our Airbnb. And when he saw me, he's like, "Oh my God, you're real, you're so beautiful." And it felt almost like a movie the way it started. It was like, okay, cliche. So yeah, we met 2019, we went on a date, it was great, sparks flew. He even said, sorry, that was my foot. He even said that I changed his perspective on life, even from that first date. I mean, you know, I do what I do. Because I was very into the law of attraction, still am, but I was just a little baby. Getting back into law of attraction, because I've known about it my whole life, and was getting back into the power of it, and the way my life unfolded. Thank you, law of attraction. So we continued to date like 2 to 3 months online before he comes to Toronto. And mind you, this first trip that we... I need to get this out of the way. So we continued to date for 2 or 3 months before he finally comes to Toronto for the first time. And mind you, he met my family on that trip, and I had met his family on the first trip accidentally because we were walking through Jersey and actually ran into them. So he's like, "That's not how I wanted you to meet my parents," but I'm like, well, is what it is. Now I know them. We came to Toronto in September as kind of like our first trip when we're like dating, you know? And things went really well. Like we stayed together in the Airbnb, and so yeah. After his trip in September 2019, we didn't see each other until February 2020, where he decided to make it official. Thank God, because girl, I was like, we were running on, it was either 4 or 6 months, which, you know, is giving grace because our situation's a little different, but I felt like I was falling in love with this person, and he was also falling in love with me, and we're here like, we don't want to say it for the first time on the phone, and we're also not dating, so it's like, ooh, you know? So when he comes to Toronto in February 2020, we tell each other we love each other, and we start officially dating. He asked me out with a puzzle that has like pictures of us on it, and I had to put it together, and he's like, "Will you be my girlfriend?" No. Just kidding. Yes. I said yes at the time, obviously. And so that began our little relationship, which was impacted a little bit by a pandemic. Yeah, a little pandemic. After he locked it down, we couldn't see each other for, I think the first time was a year, and then the second time was 6 months. Because Canada and US, they were like, "You can't come in, no you can't come in, no you can't come in." And we're just like, can we kiss at the border? Like, what's going on? So even though we couldn't see each other through COVID, it was almost like, I don't know if it was because it was in the honeymoon phase, maybe that we wouldn't have survived otherwise, but we talked so much, jobless behavior. We were both off work, so we talked a lot and we connected a lot, and we, you know, we were sending gifts to each other. It was a very romantic time. I'm a little sad that I got wasted on that, but you know, I thought pandemic will either make us or break us, and since it didn't break us, it made us, right? So if we can get through that, we can get through anything, right? So the pandemic though we couldn't see each other much, it created a really strong foundation for our relationship. He lives in Jersey, I live in Toronto. Sorry, I feel like, did I make that clear from the beginning? Anyway, doesn't matter. So yeah, 2022, travel is normal again. Now we're seeing each other every 3 months. Things are great. And we actually decide to plan a vacation in Dominican Republic, where someone may be from. Not me. I'm just kidding. So we plan our vacation. Vacation is just amazing. We had the best time. Well, I actually came home with something that I didn't mean to. I got pregnant on that trip, and it was not planned, not in the cards for me. And I didn't know for about 10 to 12 weeks. I didn't know because I was getting my period, what I thought was my period, and it was an abnormal pregnancy. It was ectopic, which means it's not viable from the start. So I didn't know all this, but this is why I was getting mixed signals. Am I pregnant? Am I not? Because the test that I would take they would have like a very faint line, which now I know obviously that means pregnant, but I'm like, I mean, it's so faint. It doesn't mean shit. Wishful thinking, you might want to call it. And finally, when I went to get like a blood test at the doctor's, see, I was in Vancouver when I had got my first few tests that were inconclusive, and my health card was expiring, so I didn't want to go to a Vancouver hospital with an expired Ontario health card. And so I waited till I got here to get the doctor's, but when I was getting here, my ex was also coming to visit. I went to the doctor's during that visit with him, and found out that I was pregnant. But for me to be bleeding, something may be wrong. And so he told me my HGC level, and so I remembered that, because if it continues to go down, then that means it's ectopic. So yeah, so he was visiting. We had a good time despite all that, and we're trying to figure out what to do. And then I get a severe pain on the day that he's about to leave, and I have to be taken to the hospital by my grandma. My mom takes him to the airport. I get taken to the hospital, and I find out from the hospital that my HGC is lower than the day before. So they said, unfortunately, because you told us that your HGC was higher, this means that, you may be having ectopic pregnancy. And I was like, okay. And so, God knew what he was doing. That's all I can say. God was like, you are not having that man's baby. Nope. And so that night in the hospital, I had to take a medication that basically, it was pretty brutal side effects. I'm not going to get into all of that now. I could do a separate video about my experience with ectopic pregnancy, because I feel like it is important, and I was really confused about a lot of things. But basically, this medication had a host of side effects that I couldn't go to work, and I had to keep going for blood tests to make sure that the hormones were going down because of that medication. And so I was going back and forth, and finally it was consistently going down, and it was safe for me to go back to work. So the day I go back to work, I have this extreme pain, and I'm like, and it has me crying out into the Toronto streets. Like I'm sobbing on the sidewalk, because I'm like, it just doesn't feel right. Something's wrong. And I know that there's complications that could happen with ectopic pregnancy, like internal bleeding or ruptured fallopian tube or whatever. So I'm like texting him all this stuff, and he's like, well, you sure it's that serious, blah blah blah. And I'm like, well, yeah, it's serious. I'm like crying on the middle of the street. I can't get an Uber to the hospital because of Toronto traffic, so I'm like, am I gonna have to walk to the hospital? I'm thinking about all these things. I'm like having a little bit of a breakdown, you know. And this man's sending me TikToks. This man is sending me TikToks, and I was like, oh, clearly we're not going through the same thing right now. Like, we're just, like, you're so far removed from what I'm going through right now. It's crazy. And then he's like, no, I mean, I just didn't see your message, blah, blah, blah. And meanwhile, we're texting back and forth, of course. Anyway. And I was just like, you know, I'm just gonna walk to the hospital, and I don't want to talk to you right now. Cool. Walk to the hospital. He keeps calling me. And finally pick up once I'm all checked in the hospital. And then he stays on the phone until my mom comes. Basically that after 8 hours waiting, they figure out that I have my little seed that was planted, was stuck in, or should I say his little seed that was planted, was stuck in my fallopian tube, and it was starting to cause internal bleeding. And so basically I had to have my fallopian tube removed because of that. I have half my reproductive system gone. Cool. So yeah, that was obviously like a big thing that I went through, and it's like a big adjustment. And wasn't really feeling myself for the first, you know, month or two. Starting to get back on my feet after like month 3, month 4. But meanwhile, while I'm starting to feel like myself again, my ex is getting close to a coworker who I would say has questionable intentions. And mind you, he didn't tell any of his family or friends about the miscarriage. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy. I tell my friends everything. And we're adults. It's not like we're gonna get in trouble. You know, we made a mistake, but clearly God took care of it. You know what I mean? So it's just very strange to me. But I know guys can talk about things differently, or they don't want to share certain things. He's like, oh, there's gonna be a lot more questions if you know, we talk to them about it. And I was like, oh, interesting. Early 2023, he's starting to get close to this person, and they're hanging out like 3-4 times a week. Like, I'm talking like intimate dinners, going to the gym together. Mind you, they first met up for the purpose of resumes and him getting a new job. Tell me why your relationship has progressed more than you getting another job. Like, I was like, if 1 + 1 = 2. Basically, that was a little bump in our relationship. They were hanging out very often. She was bringing him souvenirs from when she traveled. And this is like a 4-month friendship. It's, you know, it's a little bit close for comfort. They have each other on every social media app. She's always his most recent contact, whether it's text or TikTok or freaking Twitter. She's there, right? She even comes up in my friend suggestions. So one day, Twitter or God just decided to show me this lovely girl's account. And one of the first things I see, don't let your significant other stop you from finding the love of your life. It's poetry. And I was like, oh, she seems lovely. And keep scrolling. Remember when I said I was done with Latino men? Don't listen to a word I say, for real. And I want a gym rat Latino man and all these things. And I was just like, so all things considered, I don't really feel comfortable with you guys being as close as you are. You know, maybe you can hang out in a group setting, but I don't think the one-on-one is something I'm comfortable with. And he's like, yeah, of course, like, if you're not comfortable, I'll stop talking to her. I'm like, okay, cool. And they stopped talking, you know. for the most part. And then like 2 weeks later, we both came home from work. I was doing a shoot, he was doing like fashion week thing, and basically he was like having a hard day. He's like, I don't want to talk, like just give me some time. And I was like, okay, no worries, because I just came off having a really great day, and we're kind of like, you know, on opposite ends right now. So I'm like, okay, I'll give you some space. So he didn't want to talk to me for a few hours, but then he comes back when he has had his space, and he's like, so my coworker wants me to drop off her AirPods that she left in my bag the last time we were at the gym. And mind you, it's 1 a.m. and we're both tired, you know, both had a long day. And I was like, oh, really? Kind of weird, but you're just dropping off AirPods, right? It's like, yeah, just dropping off AirPods. You know, I'm gonna get this done as quickly as I can because I'm tired, and I'm gonna call you after on my way home. And mind you, he has to drive 30 minutes each way to get to her, so an hour in travel. And tell me why dropping off the AirPods takes an hour. An hour. I'm just like texting him. I'm like, okay, so like when are you gonna be done? I'm gonna be 30 by the time you're done talking. Like at first I'm kind of just like joking around, and then I'm like, okay, he's really still not messaging me back at all, and it's been an hour. And so I'm like, I hope you guys are enjoying your night, like, you know, a little pettiness. And we have each other's location, so I can see like he's at her place. Sorry. So yeah, basically I just give up after all those texts that are just not getting answered. I'm like, well, I hope you guys are enjoying your night. And he was like, send me a bunch of voice notes like, babe, fuck, OMG, like I realized that that I had you on Do Not Disturb all day and I didn't realize. Oh, you don't realize when there's a moon icon that says Do Not Disturb, or their notifications are silenced? Interesting. He's like, you know, I've done that to my family before, like it's not just you. And I'm like, but it's weird. It is a little coincidental, you know? He just happened not to be on Do Not Disturb. And also, it taking an hour had to do with coworker drama. It's like, we just got really into the coworker drama. And I'm like, well, the coworker drama chats with me are never that long. But obviously it's different, you know, your coworkers in it, they know the people, it's like they have context, all the things. But I was like very off put by that. And I almost felt like I gave him the benefit of the doubt, even though something felt really wrong about it. It almost felt like whether something happened or not, one of them or both of them were testing boundaries. They were kind of trying to see what they could get away with, you know? Like, okay, I don't know. And mind you, he had to drop it off that night at that time because she was traveling the next day. But like, how do you go 2 weeks without your AirPods? And then you all of a sudden need it at 2 in the morning. Okay, all right. Yeah, he's getting home at like 2 in the morning and he's like, you should trust me, all the things. It feels like nothing I do matters when you act like this. And I'm like, oh, okay. I mean, I think there's like 90% of the population that would not be okay with what you just did, but sure, I'm overreacting. And I told him, you know, I don't know if it's my intuition or anxiety, but it did not feel right. And then he's like, okay, I guess I just won't socialize. And I'm like, right, me telling you not to socialize with some girl who's like a self-proclaimed homewrecker. And my therapist friend was like, when I told her that story, she was like, Des, that's gaslighting. Like, you're not telling him not to socialize. You're telling him to not talk to one girl whose intentions seem murky. But anyway, there's a lot that I could say about her. So he tried to compare his friend of 4 months to my friend of like 5 years that we hooked up like a few times when we were single, and obviously it didn't work out. Like, we were so close that we thought, okay, maybe there's some chemistry there. And it was like, nope, it's just platonic soulmates, you know? So we figured that out when I was single. And I told him within the relationship, I'm like, oh yeah, I hooked up with that friend before. And he had some trouble getting over that fact, which understandable, because he met her first, and I didn't tell him right away, like, oh yeah, this is my friend who I hooked up with. You know, I told him probably a month or so after he met her. And I just didn't know how to tell him. This is somebody who means a lot to me, and we've built this close friendship. I don't want to just throw it away because of something we did when we're single. It'd be different if we were hooking up when we were together, but we weren't. So anyway, so he tried to bring that up as like leverage, like, oh, how come you can talk to her but I can't talk to this girl? And I'm like, it's not the same thing at all. And because my friend isn't going around being like, you know, I could take a girl if I want to, you know, just kind of like bragging about being a homewrecker and doing all this bullshit. You know, if she was doing that 100%, I would probably have to stop hanging out with her, because, you know, it's not giving that I respect your relationship. You know what I mean? He obviously didn't agree. He thought it should be treated as the same thing and that it wasn't fair. And he's like, don't talk to me for the rest of the day. And I was like, but make it 3. Make it 3. So we didn't talk for 3 days because pride. And well, I was like, well, what else do I have to say? I kind of said what I needed to say. So he finally calls me after 3 days, and like we work it out for the most part. We hear each other out, and we try to be, you know, mindful of each other's boundaries and, you know, our feelings. And then even though he doesn't think he's in the wrong at all, he ends up buying us Drake tickets. Okay. All right. Okay. So we're going to see Drake now. And that was fun. So we go to see Drake. We have a good couple trips going into 2024. Yeah, back to that girl and our situation. I don't want to get into too much of it, obviously, but I feel like that was the beginning of some emotional and maybe physical cheating, you know? A lot of people think I'm naive for thinking nothing happened. And right now I don't know that nothing happened, you know? I don't think that nothing happened. But I have no proof. And a girl who's tweeting about being a side chick is never gonna come to me as a woman, so I'll probably never know. So that Drake trip was fun, you know? We did a photo shoot that we never got the pictures to, which is kind of funny because it's, that doesn't happen often, you know? So maybe it was a blessing in disguise. It's like, actually, these photos are processing longer than your relationship. They were beautiful photos, though. I'm not gonna lie. But we just never got the edited version of them, even though we went through so many to pick. Waste of time. But anyway, after that fight, I was like, it felt like our relationship had kind of been in limbo for a little bit. And I forgot about the promise ring. So I totally forgot to mention, probably because it doesn't mean anything anymore. This man gave me a promise ring in the midst of me going through all my pregnancy stuff. And he's like, this isn't what you think it is, but it's one step closer. I was like, okay. And he gave me this whole little spiel. And yeah, it's actually funny that I glossed over that because it doesn't mean anything anymore. So yeah, I just thought I'd mention that because it's like, okay, I promise, you know, I promise to marry you one day. But then we go through this thing and I'm like, ooh, I don't know if we can do that. So I'm gonna start getting close to my coworker. Anyway, let's move on. Okay, back to the Montreal Drake trip. So we went to see Drake in concert, which was amazing. We also did a photo shoot that trip, which was really nice. We never got the photos back, which maybe there's a reason for that. But the pictures were beautiful. That's why I was like, weird that we didn't get them back, and the photographer, I couldn't find her Instagram, so I don't know if she just dropped off the face of the earth or I have a really bad memory. And she even said, like, I'll take your guys' wedding photos and all the stuff, and I was like, never gonna happen, girl. So I was thinking around 2023, like, things were great. Whenever we got together, it was great. But I felt like we should be moving forward a little bit. We'd always talked about moving in together, and because we're long distance, it kind of creates like, so we could move in together at any time, really, but money, food, you know, like, he moves here, he wouldn't be able to work. I move there, I wouldn't be able to work. You know what I mean? So it was like, either I have to get a visa there, or he would have to get a visa here. And wasn't exactly willing to do the the heavy lifting besides in the gym. He didn't try to get into the Canadian visa stuff. He didn't try to get a remote job or anything. So I was like, okay, well, hopefully, you know, something gives. And meanwhile, I'm just gonna be happy in my relationship, enjoy it for what it is, because, you know, I love this man. And the visa's gonna come from either side when it's supposed to come. So I kind of gave it like a year to kind of just like see where we're at. So when I was coming back from a New York trip, I got an offer from Ford to do an online interview for my visa. So I online interviewed with them, and then they loved me, and then so I basically booked the next month to go back to New York to be able to interview with Ford. And I met my agent Nanda. She's amazing. The interview went great. My ex met me after. We went out to dinner. I paid because I was like, I'm gonna be making those big bucks for us, honey. I don't know. I was just like really happy, and it just felt like the natural next step. Everything's like aligning, you know. So a few months into 2024 is when I finally applied for my visa, which I was supposed to get what's it called? I was supposed to get the visa that is fast-tracked, basically, so you would get your response in 2 weeks. But because of the prices going up, you know, I only had so much saved, and I decided to just do the regular processing. So thank God I didn't do the premium processing, because who knows where the hell I would be right now. So I did the regular processing, so obviously it's taken a few months. So we submitted in June, and, you know, things have been great, right? Things are going great. 2024, we start off, there's no doubts, there's no fears. He's telling me how proud he is of me and how we can't wait to move in together, and we're discussing our future and fantasizing about it and like things that we're gonna get to do, and just like, here's where your stuff is gonna go, here's where this is gonna go, here's the, like, everything seems to be like so exciting, so happy. We're finally getting to move in together, and like our relationship's already been great, but it's gonna get even better is my thoughts. And so looking back at the last year, I do feel like there was some emotional and physical distancing that he was doing. But at the time, when I would bring something up, be like, oh, why is this happening? And not in a confrontational way. Like, I was always like, you know, just, you know, be honest. And I knew he was going through his own stuff with his mental health and with different things in his life. So he would tell me it wasn't about me, and I believed him. And I was reassured, I was gaslit, some might say, into believing everything was fine. And he was just going through his thing. And you know what women say about men that are going through their own shit? They'll treat their partners like shit. So, but I'm here still, like, oh no, that guy that I started dating, he's still in there, right? Like, I'm still in there. I see little breadcrumbs of him every now and again, you know? It's like sometimes he can be very romantic, and sometimes he can be very like nonchalant, like very cool. Okay. And so 2025, everything seems to be fine. Everything seems to be good, you know. We're looking forward to seeing each other for our big week, which is anniversary, Valentine's Day, and my birthday. Not in that order. It actually is Valentine's Day, anniversary, my birthday. So he takes the initiative to book everything, which usually we do that together, you know. We're kind of like, okay, what works and blah blah blah. But he just took initiative. He booked everything in one day. He was being very vague about it, and I was like, oh my gosh, like, he's really taking initiative. Like, the bar is in hell. And he also paid for the whole Airbnb, which usually we would split it, like, however, 70-30 usually, but he's like, you know, I'll just take care of this and it'll be part of your birthday present. And I was like, okay, cool, sounds good. And so, mind you, he books all this stuff about a month before we're about to see each other, maybe a month and a half, and that will become relevant when we talk about the breakup. But yeah, he takes this initiative, he does all this good stuff. We just can't wait to see each other, blah blah blah. And then we finally see each other. It's great. We celebrate Valentine's Day. I took care of Valentine's Day. He's like, I'm taking care of our anniversary, so we did puppy yoga, and we had a dinner at a Michelin star restaurant, and he was very quiet our anniversary night, I will say, because I did buy us some wine, and apparently he doesn't like the way alcohol makes him feel anymore, and he was just really quiet the whole night. It's like, oh, okay. And I was just trying to be, you know. But now looking back, I'm thinking the alcohol was probably unconcealing what he had planned, and he was probably feeling a lot of guilt and a lot of, you know, different things, because mind you, I had no idea at the time that he had even thought about breaking up with me yet. We haven't got to that yet. So I'm just giving him the benefit of the doubt. He just doesn't like the way alcohol makes him feel. He's not a big drinker, so we go back, we watch Wicked, I make a little anniversary video for us, and he's like, oh my god, I love that, send it to me. And I didn't send it to him right away, my bad. I sent it to him after we broke up, my bad. Yeah, we have that. I made him cookies that night, and then we have my birthday the next day. Something I want to note, when I said happy anniversary, he's like happy 5-year anniversary, babe, even though it feels like 3 because of COVID. I was like, what do you mean by that? Because we're still in a relationship those 2 years, you know, that we weren't just chilling. At least I wasn't. So I did think that was weird. I also thought it was weird he didn't post anything for anniversary or Valentine's Day, and he's like, I'm waiting to post after the trip. And I was like, okay. Sometimes we do that, but we don't usually announce it, you know what I mean? So I thought that was a little weird, but nonetheless. So the next day is my birthday. We go out to this Italian restaurant, and my friends come over and we hang out. We have a really good time, at least me and my friends do. My ex is a little quiet off in the corner. A little weird, a little strange. And like, yeah, it's weird because he was there, but he wasn't there, you know? He wasn't very present in our conversations, and he was just kind of like, I'm happy to be at the table, but he wasn't, you know what I mean? So after that, the next day we had a birthday dinner with my family, and that he was super smiley, but also quiet, you know? Very small talk, very short conversations with people, and mind you, it's probably been like 2 or 3 years since he last saw them. So, you know, it was a big deal to get everybody together. And then the last few days of our trip, we went out to dinner with my best friend, and I had to take a job on the 20th, which was the last day that he was here. So the last day he was here, I got booked for a job in Vancouver, so I couldn't spend his last day with him, which usually when we make our plans to see each other, we prioritize that over work, which we always have done. I've sacrificed, and we both have, different opportunities to be able to see each other, different work opportunities. So if this was smack dab in the middle of the trip, I probably would have said, I can't do it, you know? But also, this is a time where I need to be saving as much as I can because I am in the process of moving, my visa, the Canadian dollar is shit, and it was also at the end of my trip. So I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna take this job because, you know, it's just your last day. Thank God it didn't get into in the middle or anything of our plans. So I left, and that was the last time I'll ever see him. So yeah, basically I left at like 4 in the morning. Very sleepy goodbye to my ex, and not knowing that was the last time I would ever see him. I went off to work and did my job. You know, he was a little quiet over the next few days, but I figured, you know, he's getting back to his routine, he's getting back to work, he's getting back to like running errands and stuff. So I wasn't thinking too much into it. Should have been, huh? So here we are on the 25th. It's Monday night, date night, and there was no indication of, you know, we need to talk or something's wrong or nothing. Nothing. So Monday night, date night, we're supposed to catch up on White Lotus, Severance, and he decided that he wanted to break up instead. So that brings us to the breakup. Things weren't perfect. There were moments that I could feel him pulling away, but he just reassured me, and I was able to convince myself, you know, it's just what he's going through, and, you know, things will be better once we move in, and nope. Anyway, so I'm just gonna get right into the breakup. I needed to make this video now because I'm literally, it's hard for me to even recollect the breakup, you know what I mean? It was so vague and it was so cold and emotionless that it was like, it's literally fading from my mind. I literally had to write notes, like bullet points, breakup points. It's like point of like what he said, because it's basically like point. But I'll give a little context in between. So I call him, and he's kind of, his eyes are a little bit red. He looks kind of like, you know, he looks kind of like blank in the eyes. I was just like, and he seems like anxious. So I'm like, babe, is everything okay? Like, you seem pretty anxious. Like, he's just talking to me like normal, like, oh, this is what I did, what did you do, blah, blah, blah. We're just catching up. I was like, you seem really anxious. Like, is everything okay? And he's like, yeah, I am anxious about something. I was like, okay. What are you anxious about? And mind you, like, the pauses that this man made me endure, they were like, I'm pretty sure I have gray hair because of it. Like, the pauses were at least 1 minute to 2 minutes long. And I was like, okay. So I'm not gonna bore you guys with the pauses, but yeah. So that's another reason why it's hard to remember, is because there was so much like dead air in between. So, and yeah. So basically he's like, long pause, like maybe this pause was like 4 minutes, because the other ones are like less. But so he's like, yeah, I am anxious about something. Long pause. Okay, I'm just gonna say what I need to say, and you can give me your thoughts at the end. I'm like, okay. My priorities have shifted. And I'm like, meaning what? And he's like, long pause. I need to work on myself. And I was like, okay. And he's like, and because of that, I can't continue this relationship. And I was like, what? Like, I was like, what do you need to work on that we can't work through together? He's like, it's not that simple for everyone. It's not that simple for everyone. Because I was like, well, I've healed. Sorry. See, this is what I mean. Like, it's so jumbled up in my brain. It's the timeline. So I need to work on myself. I have some deep traumas that I need to confront. And because of that, I can't continue this relationship. And I was like, I was shocked. I was like, mind you, there's a lot of crying on my end, pretty much crying the whole time. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, what do you need to work through that we can't work through together? And like, I've healed so many traumas in this relationship, and you know, I've been so vulnerable with you. And he's like, it's not that simple for everyone, Desiree. It's not that simple. I'm like, okay, well, can we make it that? What do you mean? Like, it's just something you just decided? He's like, it's not something I just decided like overnight. And then I was like, but it's been 3 days since we saw each other. You haven't talked to me about anything, like, and you're still not talking to me about anything really. You're just breaking up with me. And then he admits, he's like, well, I was having these thoughts a month before the trip. And I was like, so who did you talk to about that? Not me. Because he knew that if he talked to me about it, I would have more questions. I'd be like, he would have to be vulnerable if we talked about it. Because it's not like, yeah, so I feel like breaking up. Yeah, but I'm sure it'll pass. Yeah. It's okay. We don't need to talk about why. You know, he didn't want a conversation about it. He just wanted to be able to make that decision. My thing is like, why come to Toronto? But anyway, I'm getting carried away. We'll get into that in a sec. But yeah, mind you, he's like, I thought about it a month before. But about a month before was when he booked everything. So I feel like it might have been a month and a half before the trip that he booked stuff. It's murky. I think it's either a month and a half or a month. Whatever. Point is, he was having those feelings and didn't talk to me about it. Cool. Just decided to push them away. He said, you deserve honesty, and I don't want to waste any more of your time. And I said, well, like, what do you mean wasting my time? Like, what about the promise that you made me? And he's like, sometimes promises need to be broken. And I'm not the same man that I was when I gave you that promise ring. What does that sound like? Cheating? Lying? Interesting. So I'm not the same man I was when I gave you that promise ring, but I won't explain why. So, because I'm pretty sure whatever traumas you had, you came into the relationship with them, just like I did. Okay, cool. Gotcha. And I was like, we didn't even get to live together. Like you're just giving up on us. And I was like, do you even love me? And he's like, I do. That's why I need to do this. Like, okay, you psychopath. I'm like, well, you're not even giving me a reason. You're being so vague. He's like, I'm not being vague. I just can't tell you what you want to hear. And mind you, like, the way I'm saying it is like the way he said it. Like, it was so, like, I'd never even seen him like that before, with such like a emptiness, like a coldness in his demeanor. I'm like, I don't even know you anymore, bro. And he said something about, I don't deserve you, or you deserve better, or something. I can't remember exactly what he said because I was in the midst of like sobbing, and I was like, you're right, I don't deserve this. And then I'm just like here crying, and he's like just like watching me. He's kind of like, man, this is the part of life that sucks. Like, I'm like, who are you? Like, you're so disconnected. Like, who are you? Who did I just spend a week with? Like, who did I just celebrate my anniversary with, and why? That's the biggest question. Why did we just celebrate? What the fuck what are we celebrating? That's pretty much it. That's all I got in my notes. Like, when I tell you the breakup was so vague, it was so vague. And he was just basically watching me cry, like, yeah, that sucks. And I'm like, well, if you're just gonna keep watching me cry, then I think we should just end it here. I don't have anything nice to say to you right now. And that was pretty much it. And he was like, you're gonna do great things. I'm really sorry, Des. And then hangs up the phone. And that was our breakup. That was it. So I struggle even calling it a breakup because it's not like it's like two people deciding, okay, so we have these issues and this is why we don't work, or I feel really insecure about this thing and you're not able to meet my needs in this way, or blah blah blah, or a certain part of you triggers me. No, like, it's not two people deciding, okay, like, we're not gonna be together anymore. It was one person deciding, like, we're not gonna be together anymore, and you don't even get to know why. Really. You just get to know that I need to better myself, which kind of like leads to like, oh, maybe I'm not good enough for you, you know. I'm afraid that I'm going to disappoint you in some way. But it could also just be like a cop-out, you know. Maybe he lost feelings for me, fell out of love with me, fell out of attraction with me. He could have cheated on me, he could have done this, he could have been living a double life. Like, that's the thing that pisses me off so much, is like, he left it so open-ended that I can go through like a million theories in my head. And he even said, he's like, you're probably gonna go through so many things that you could have done differently. Not me. I'm not going through things that I could have done differently. Of course, I'm like, okay, I should have broke up with you in 2023. But I'm like, I'm thinking about all the things that led up to this point, which has really helped me kind of see the relationship in a different light. You know how they say, when you see a flag from head on, you don't know that it's a flag. It just looks like a line or something. But when you're out of the relationship, oh, it's very clear what that is. That's a red flag. And there was many that I had missed because I was honoring our commitment and holding on to the person that I fell in love with, who was really just being chipped away year by year. I think our relationship only lasted as long as it did because of long distance. I think it was perfect for him to keep me at a distance, and that when I was gonna move in, that things were gonna get too real, and I don't know, maybe he couldn't hide something from me anymore. He didn't want me to know certain things. I know some stuff that he's gone through that I won't be sharing because I know he has some insecurities and some areas of his life that could have definitely affected, you know, how he saw himself and how he saw himself showing up in this relationship. But like I said, it was never discussed. It was just a discussion between him and him. So it's like, sometimes I'll give him that kind of compassion. And I'm like, but you really don't know. Like, you could just be like giving compassion to this guy who did all these evil things. And that's where I'm left. I'm left with a lot of theories, and you know, it really, the way we broke up really tainted our relationship for me. Like, just wondering, like, when did you start pretending? You know? When, like, how long were you having these thoughts, really? And, like, was it ever real? I mean, I feel like some of it was real, for sure. But I can't give you a clear answer when that stopped. I think it could have been, like, 1 to 2 years ago, if I'm looking based on context clues. And yeah, that leaves me healing. For the most part, doing this video is very healing, because I'm hoping that I don't have to keep talking about this in the way of, like, you know, having to go over the whole relationship and, like, the whole, because it's just, it sucks. It sucks that he came. It sucks that he couldn't be honest with me in person, because, like, why? You had thoughts a month before breaking up with me, so you come to celebrate me, and we're in person together for a week, and then you break up with me 3 days later. It's like, I really think he was just not man enough to break up with me in person, because he knows that it would be an actual conversation, and then he couldn't just turn off of his phone. It's like, so that just makes me see him as such a coward. Such a coward. Oh my god. And it just makes me think, like, who was that person? Like, did I really even know him? I don't know. I don't think I did. And so the breakup happened, and I thought, you know, we would discuss it a little bit more. You know, kind of just like go into more of a conversation. But that same night that he broke up with me, he stopped sharing his location immediately. And then the next day I was like, hey, do you mind breaking up with me again over a voice note without all the pauses? Because I just need to understand, because I'm still in shock. And so doesn't respond. I'm like, I promise I'll be your favorite ex, and I'll never hit you up again if you just, like, explain some stuff to me. I just want to talk a little bit. No response, no response. Okay, maybe he's not, you know, on his phone. Look on Twitter. Oh, he's retweeting stuff like, let go, detach, move on, it's over. And I'm like, it hasn't even been 12 hours since we broke up. Like, can you know, pump the brakes a little bit? So you're willing to just, like, subtweet and, like, talk about me, and, well, not talk about me, but you know what I mean, like, reference the situation, I guess. But you're not willing to talk to me one-on-one. And so that really, really hurt me. That he's just immediately icing me out. Like, he's saying I didn't do anything wrong. I couldn't have done anything wrong. That's another thing that he said during the breakup. I couldn't have done anything differently. But then why are you treating me like I you know, like I killed your hamster or something? And for toxic relationships, I understand it has to be, like, abrupt, and you, like, need to cut off communication right away. This wasn't that. Not that I thought, anyway. So it was like, oh, you immediately don't care about me. So I called him, and he answered on, like, the last ring. He's like, what's up? And I'm like, are you just fully ignoring me now? He's like, I'm just going about my day. Like, very casual, very cool, very vague. And I was like, so you're just going about your day, and that includes ignoring me? He's like, what I am gonna stop doing is hurting you. What does that mean? You're hurting me? How are you hurting me? And I was like, did you cheat on me? And he rolls his eyes like, no. And I was like, really? Because the first thing you did was turn off your location. So I'm sure you had fun doing whatever you were doing last night. And he's like, all right, bye, Des. And then hangs up the phone. And that was pretty much it. I was like, oh, I don't know that person anymore. I no longer know that person. That is, I don't know who that is, but like it really, like it made me sick to think about, because you know when you just have like a trip or a good time with somebody and you're like, you're reliving all the memories and you're like, oh my god, like that was so fun. And it's just like, that came to like immediate halt. The first night, like that he broke up with me, I was literally like having like, it almost felt like terrors. Like I was like, would fall asleep and then I'd think about like a good moment. I'd like wake up like, no, you, like it's not, like that's not, like you just got broken up with, girl. That first night was hell. Those first, I would say almost a week. That first week was hell trying to get to sleep. Oh my god. The flashbacks were crazy, but I'm finally sleeping like a baby again. You know, spoiler alert. How I sleep knowing nobody's son is cheating on me. So yeah, basically the last interaction we had was I sent him a PayPal request because he did pay for my nails for that week, and since I was getting them taken off, I was like, you want to pay for that, buddy? And it's like the least you could do, because yeah, not like I spent $7,000 on a visa to come live with you. And he's like, I'm gonna respectfully decline. And I was like, brokey. No, I'm just kidding. And then he tried to call me and it could have been an accident. I was like, is there a reason you're trying to call? And then he didn't answer. And I was like, I'm blocking you on here too. So I blocked his number and his WhatsApp. And on Instagram, I'm like, you're gonna have to block me because you know, like you deserve to see me thriving. So I'm not gonna block you. So he was the one who blocked and unblocked me so that we weren't following each other, but we could still see each other's page. And I'm like, boy, you post the same picture every like you post 10 of the same pictures, like that's all your Instagram feed is. I'm not like, what do I need to stalk you for? I'm not gonna do that, honey. But here I am for your viewing pleasure, so you can see what you lost. And so yeah, that was basically the breakup, and then the aftermath. The aftermath, that was nothing. And so currently he's just like pretending like nothing's ever happened. He's just kind of like going on. He's just talking about, you know, sports and Drake and all that bullshit. It's like, okay, yeah, you're a straight man, we get it. And I do want to bring up, somebody commented on one of the shorts that I did talking about my breakup, being like, oh, it's always the ones that are in the wrong that have the most to say. It's like, sorry, but do you hear yourself when you speak? Because if I was in the wrong, what the fuck would I have to say? What would I have to say? Nothing. I'd be tweeting about sports and Drake and blah, 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 blah. You know? Because you think he's going around telling people, yeah, I need to work on myself, so couldn't let that relationship flourish, you know? Okay, sure. So yeah, I just wanted to be clear on all that. I mean, I feel like breaking up with someone is not a crime, especially when it's toxic, but the way you do it it says a lot about you, and it says a lot about how you were in the relationship. Like, I think he's just trying to protect his like little nice guy, like, you know, whatever. So yeah, so that was the breakup and the little bit of aftermath. So I wanted to talk about how I'm processing this. Like I said, the first week was really hard. You know, I cried a lot the first 3 days, but the crying stopped. I would say about a week in, or actually less than a week, because it was like the first 3 days I cried a lot, and then I was like all cried out. I was like, cool, okay. So this is my life now. So it's like mentally, it's easy and it's hard because we're in a long distance relationship, because he wasn't always physically here, but he was always kind of in the background. So it's like my mind is still getting used to like not having that person, texting that person. And I was like, oh my god, I have so much time. It's like, wow, okay. So it's like, yeah, one of the ways I have been processing it is I've been dating myself again, which I was basically doing that in the relationship anyway. Whenever I felt like he couldn't emotionally meet my needs, I would just meet my own, which, girl, you should have known. But so yeah, I've basically just been doing more of that. So that kind of stuff I can do for myself. And yeah, so I've just been, you know, making sure I'm doing my skincare, you know, I'm exercising, moving the grief through my body, I'm walking a lot. You guys know in the Smex in the City with Carrie and Big, and once when they broke up and she was just like constantly walking, that's how I feel sometimes. And I'm just like, yeah, like, let me just keep walking, like, why not? And it's getting nicer, so obviously I'm already outdoing my step count from last year, so don't be jealous. I'm trying not to overindulge in my vices. You know, we all have our vices, whether it's gardening, whether it's alcohol, whether it's eating a lot. You know, I'm trying to stay balanced and just like, you know, I'm not gonna ruin my life over somebody who's not in my life. The fuck? Like, what? I sent a closure letter to him. The first thing I did was like take all the pieces of him out of my room, and just kind of like, so I didn't have to keep waking up and seeing that, and just like a reminder. So I sent all those little sentimental things to him along with my closure letters. I wrote a closure letter on day 1 and I wrote a closure letter on day 8 because I had time to like, because you know, obviously day 1 is like more emotional and more like hateful, you know. And then the day 8 is a little bit more mature, kind of like looking over what we had, like, thank you for this, but stay the hell away from me, you know. He sent me my sweaters back, which smell like him. Anyway, I've been doing nervous system work, which I already wanted to start doing nervous system work, but with my breakup, my nervous system was shot, and so it's been really, I can't even explain how much I think that has helped me. The anxiety that I would feel the first few weeks, and compared to like now that I'm doing nervous system work, I think it's beautiful. It's beautiful. I don't have that like background anxiety. So I do that in the morning and in the night, and I do my affirmations afterwards or meditation, and really just time. Time gives meaning. Really just time. Time overall is what's gonna help me get through this, you know? And doing those things that I mentioned over time. And, you know, I'm really, like, I am still hurt, but I'm very hopeful for the future, because if I could give, you know, so much of myself to somebody like who was not as emotionally available or intelligent as I would have liked, I can only imagine the person that I'm going to attract with what I'm putting out now. You know, not like I'm trying to get into anything anytime soon. You know, I need at least a few months or a year. I don't know, because this was 5 years of my life, guys. But it does bring me comfort in knowing like how much love I give to this person and how much love I am capable of, you know, and that's gonna go to someone who ultimately deserves it one day. And this hole in my heart is going to be filled. I won't pretend like it doesn't hurt, you know, it does. It's absolutely, it's confusing, because I didn't even recognize the person that he became, you know. So that's what really fucks with me. When you love somebody for years and you think that you know them, and they just leave you like that, it's naturally you're gonna be questioning everything. But here's what I do know. It's not about me not being enough. It's about him not being able to show up for me in the way that I deserved. Ultimately, I know that's true. And whatever he was doing to cope with that, none of my business. Unless somebody wants to come to me woman to woman. I dated a serial cheater in the past, and women were coming to me for months, maybe even years. So, you know. So, what I've learned about fearful avoidance. I would think that my ex is a fearful avoidant based on, like I said, I've had a lot of time to reflect on the relationship and our conflicts, and yeah, it's giving avoidant, babe. It's giving avoidant. I'm gonna read some stuff about fearful avoidance. So here's the thing about fearful avoidance. They crave connection, but they fear it at the same time. They want love, but when it gets too real, they run. And it's not because you weren't good enough. It's because their own fears and wounds make them believe that love isn't safe. That's why, if you've ever been with a fearful avoidant, you've probably experienced the push-pull dynamic, which we talked about earlier. They get close, then they get scared and pull away. They love you, but the moment intimacy feels too deep, they start emotionally detaching. And by the time they actually leave, they've already shut down inside. Which I feel like makes a lot of sense to how immediately cold he was. It's either he already grieved and processed the end of our relationship before seeing me, and then he went through the week of celebrations like a psychopath, or he immediately just decided to do this and he buried his feelings. Either way, you need help. Either way, stop it. Get some help. Ultimately, learning about attachment styles has helped me to kind of process this and, you know, realize it's not just my fault. So, moving forward, where does this leave me? I won't lie, I'm still figuring out everything. You know, I was building a life around him that included him. And now I have to rewrite that story without him. And it's kind of terrifying. But also very freeing. Like, I feel like the world is open up, you know? And I know now I don't have to be in a relationship where I have to beg for clarity or reassurance or just basic emotional availability. Honestly, maybe the breakup was the best thing that could have ever happened to me, even though I just don't see it right now. Because I feel like I'm already starting to kind of see that. Like, I'm like... Because I feel like if we didn't end this way, I maybe wouldn't have gone back and looked at certain things and realized, you know, put certain things together. So, you know, we could have just been going on in our cycle. So if you're going through a breakup with someone who just disappeared emotionally, if you feel like you never got the closure, I want you to know that you don't need their explanation for you to heal. The way they treated you is your closure, okay? I know I'm not alone in this, okay? I've read Reddit threads, I've seen YouTube videos, I've seen TikToks, I've seen lots of stuff where I feel very heard and seen. And if you've ever been in a relationship like this, I'd love to hear in the comments. Let's talk about it, let's heal from it, and let's remind ourselves that the love we're looking for, it doesn't feel like confusion. Thank you for being here with me today, and if you found this helpful, you can like, subscribe, do all that good stuff. And if you know somebody who needs this video, welcome. Welcome to the Heartbreak Hotel. And I will say, just a closer, Meg Robbins, Mrs. Incredible, She did a really good podcast on breakups, so listen to that, please. It helped me a lot, and I hope I helped you a lot. I love you guys so much, and thank you for being on this journey with me as I go through this. I wanted to bring you guys through it with me, and yeah, I don't want to ruminate on it too much, but I just wanted to get my feelings out there. So thank you for listening, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.